The push-up is a classic bodyweight exercise. It has been considered a standard of fitness for decades, and aside from pull-ups, it's probably one of the most highly coveted goals of our clients. While many people think of the push-up as an upper body exercise, it's really a full body movement. Think of all of the muscles used in a plank: the chest, shoulders, abdominals, and even the quads to help keep the legs straight. Now add in the triceps for push-ups as you move to your hands, and you're working a lot of muscles with one very simple exercise. All of these muscles working together require a large amount of strength and coordination, which makes push-ups an excellent exercise with the added bonus of being able to do them just about anywhere. But like a lot of bodyweight exercises, they can be difficult to perform properly, especially for newer trainees. Let's take a look at some of the most common mistakes we see in push-ups. Probably the most common error we see is with hand placement, either placing the hands too wide, too narrow, or too far in front of the shoulders. Placing the hands wide makes the exercise feel easier because it shortens the range of motion, as well as recruits more pectoral muscles, which are one of the prime movers in the push-up. The downside to this is it doesn't recruit as much triceps, and it also puts a lot of stress on the shoulder joint. On the flip side, with your hands too narrow, you'll recruit a lot of triceps. However, in this position, a lot of stress will now be placed on the elbow joint. Another common mistake we see is the hands placed too far in front of the body. The reason this position feels comfortable is because you now have forces from your upper body and lower body pushing against each other, canceling each other out. While this position is easier to maintain at the top, it makes performing the push-up very awkward and difficult. The ideal hand placement is with the hands directly underneath the outer part of the shoulder. This keeps the tension on the chest and will make the abs work harder to stabilize your position. At the top, from the side view, you will see the arms in a near vertical position or angled slightly forward from hand to shoulder. At the bottom of the push-up, you will see the position has the forearms nearly vertical and an angle slightly tighter than 90 degrees at the elbow joint. The fix for improper hand placement would be to take a picture of yourself from the side and the front so you can see if you're in the correct position. If possible, mark the position on the floor so you can perform the push-up the same way every time until the correct hand placement becomes second nature. Holding this position will also improve your strength even though you aren't doing traditional reps. It's difficult to perform a perfect push-up if you don't start in the correct position. The next most common error we see is improper elbow and shoulder position. Once your hands are placed properly, it's important to make sure that the shoulder and elbow is placed properly as well. Even if the hands are in the right spot, you can still put the upper arm in the wrong position. Again, a common mistake we see here is with the arms too flared out or directly pinned against the body. Ideally, you should look like the head of an arrow from the top down. If your elbows are flared out, putting you into a T position, you are compromising your shoulder health. Doing a single set in this position is unlikely to cause injury, but training this way for prolonged periods of time will increase your risk and decrease your results. Also, try to remember to put yourself in that arrowhead position. The method that we use to help ingrain this position is isometric holds, but this time in the bottom position. Even if you can't get back up without putting your knees down, this exercise will greatly improve your strength. Next, let's talk about spinal and pelvic position. Often when performing the push-up, trainees will let their lumbar spine fall into extension. This sway back position puts a lot of pressure on your low back, as well as does not properly train the abdominal muscles. The cause of this error can be one of two things. Either the trainee lacks the strength to hold a proper position, or they lack coordination. Ideally, when performing a push-up, you should be able to draw a straight line from your ear, through your shoulder, hips, knees, and your ankles. With excessive lumbar extension, you will see the hips drop away from that line. The fix for this sway back position is to practice pelvic and spinal positioning in a few different positions. The method we often use is to lay flat on your back with your feet flat on the floor. Place one hand under your back and feel the natural gap between your low back and the floor. From there, press your low back into the floor. Feel how your abdominals contract to press your low back against the floor. This is the same action that needs to occur in the push-up position. Once you've mastered the abdominal contraction laying on your back, try doing the cat-cow drill. Finally, when you're ready to move on, practice the pelvic and spinal position in the top of a push-up. The last thing we're going to cover is what happens when you become fatigued or you are simply not strong enough to perform good push-ups. Number 1, decreasing their range of motion. There are few scenarios in fitness where doing a shorter range of motion is beneficial. The overwhelming majority of exercises should be done through as much range of motion as possible. As soon as you start sacrificing how far down you go in order to perform more reps, you need to end the set immediately. Another common thing we see, and this goes hand in hand with decreasing your range of motion, is what we call chicken necking. The cousin of decreased range of motion, people often perceive how deep they are going in a push-up by judging the distance of their face from the ground. All chicken necking accomplishes is straining your neck. Last, we see people sometimes seesawing. In a perfect push-up, your entire body stays rigid and straight as you lower and raise it to and from the floor. However, when we get fatigued, we tend to move upper and lower body in separate phases. By raising your upper body while your hips stay low, we are decreasing the amount of load our chest and arms have to resist against. But doing this defeats the purpose of a push-up. Now let's talk about push-up progressions. There are many ways to progress to doing full push-ups, but this is a very basic way to get started. If you can perform one level of difficulty easily, move on to the next. First is a push-up iso hold at the top of the push-up, also known as a plank from the hands. We recommend doing 3 to 5 sets of 30 to 60 seconds each. This drill will only benefit you if you can hold perfect positions. If you feel the need to deviate from the proper positions, end the set immediately and take adequate rest before performing the next set. Adequate rest would be 60 to 120 seconds. Remember, this is a strength exercise. Even if you feel like you're ready for the next set after 30 seconds, take at least a minute to give your muscles a rest. The next progression would be a push-up iso hold with 1 foot elevated, also known as a 3-point plank. Again, we recommend 3 to 5 sets for 30 to 60 seconds per leg, and do not sway your hips left, right, up, or down. Next, we have a push-up iso hold with 1 hand elevated. You can hold the hand 1 to 3 inches off the ground or out over the head, which is a bit harder. 3 to 5 sets of 30 to 60 seconds is sufficient. The most challenging variation of the push-up iso hold, aka plank from hands, is the iso hold with leg abduction. Perform 3 to 5 sets for 8 to 12 reps per leg. Remember to maintain excellent positions at all times, and if you can, keep the leg floating for the entire set. Next, we recommend push-up iso holds from the bottom of a push-up position. This involves lowering yourself as low as you can to the ground without resting on the floor. Perform 3 to 6 sets for 8 to 20 seconds each. Push back up if you can do so with good positions. If you can't, rest on the floor and sit up if necessary. If you can easily perform the aforementioned progressions for the prescribed sets and reps, it's probably time to move on to full-on push-ups. We recommend performing 3 to 6 sets of regular push-ups for as many reps as possible per set. If you can't perform at least 5 repetitions of full push-ups on your first set, revert back to one of the previous steps. If you're able to perform double-digit reps for 3 sets or more with good technique, it's definitely time to introduce some more challenging push-up variations. If you'd like to see some of our favorite advanced push-up techniques, leave a comment below and we'll cover it in the next video. Do you have a favorite push-up progression? Let us know in the comments below.